Stipko Live, welcome to New York City, and once again via our favorite thing called the internet. It's always very complicated for a caveman attorney like me. The internet's going to take us via Skype to Tommy Peltier, a classic, unbelievably cool, hip, underground sort of jazz artist. Tommy Peltier in Los Angeles. Tommy, how are you, buddy?
Doing great. Good to see you.
I can't thank you enough, and I know you've got your son and some family and crew there helping out with the high-tech Skype connection. Thanks to them as well.
Right, yeah.
So tell me, what's going on now? We've got, we're covering 48 years of music. Why don't we talk a little bit about the history of the band from the Jazz Heads, and then we'll walk that all the way to today's album.
Well, the Jazz Corps.
Right.
And it was, I got some of my, there happen to be some of the best musicians in town together. Friends for a while, and we did our first recording in 1963 and called it the Jazz Corps. It was kind of, and the first album, which just came out, is called Jazz Heads. And I don't know, it felt really good.
Right.
That was the very beginning.
Well, at the time, I mean, there wasn't a huge jazz sort of movement, especially the jazz that you were playing. I mean, even from day one, it was a little more progressive than every other dude out there. There was sort of that cat scene, and you were definitely on the leading edge. What instigated that? Like, where did that come from down deep? Because here you are, 48 years later, you're still, following your inspirations and your emotions true to the core. I mean, I know that personally about you. You don't deviate at all, and you sure as hell don't sell out.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, well, I think that particular movement, I mean, I was playing since I was 10 years old, and when I was in high school, Jerry Mulligan and Chet Baker, really blew me away. We went down to The Hague, that was right across from the Ambassador, the Coconut Grove,
right?
With our fake IDs and little story there. We took our girlfriends, of course, we're all just teenagers, and they seated us, and they're going around looking at our ID. And my friend had a fake ID. He was George Otero, redheaded Mexican. And they looked at him, they walked around, and he passed his ID to me. And
another redheaded Mexican.
Yeah, right. And she's looking at it. He says, "Wow, you guys are brothers? You don't look alike." George said, "Well, he was sick a long time."
Right.
So I'll never forget that. But anyway, we got away with it and a couple of times. And, I was really inspired by Jerry Mulligan, Chet Baker, and the Pianoless Quartet.
Right.
And that started the modern jazz feel for me. And then, of course, in the middle 50s, Miles Davis. And toward the end there, when I heard Ornette Coleman, it was like, this is a new age of jazz. And that was a giant inspiration, and still is for me, with his Pianoless Quartet. And he just... I don't know, it was a love-hate thing between all the musicians at that time. Some hated him, some loved him, and it was like no in-between ground. And so the Jazz Corps, it was kind of based on that, even not as free as Ornette.
Right.
But it really, he inspired us, this whole group of our players. And you can hear that in the music in the first recordings.
Oh, yeah, there's no question about it. And we're going to hear a little bit of that in a minute. I'm looking at the Skype cam, and you've got like a little set going on behind you there.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you tell me what I'm looking at here? Start from is that an album cover on the very top left there? Over your right shoulder, or now, over your right shoulder.
Right, well, that's a piece of my new album.
Right.
Love, Women, and Song.
Right.
And on the left side is the back cover.
All right, there you go. And what about the two axes on the wall? Are those do they any significance, or is it just eye candy?
My grandsons.
Oh.
I'm over at my son's house.
All right.
That's his guitars.
All right.
It's this nice little thing for me.
We won't let on how many years you and I have known each other, but it's safe to say it's a couple of digits easily. I've always known you with those shades. This is like a trademark vibe of yours. Is that sort of circular ocular thing? Tell me about. Was there any story behind that? Is there any tradition to this? What's going on with those?
Just want to look through life with rose-colored glasses. You know?
Such an easy setup, Tommy. But it's true, you know, and as our viewers probably don't know, or at least most of them don't know, you and my uncle were good friends for many years before we lost him, and the two of you would go around shooting photographs and playing gigs together, and if he wasn't playing, you were shooting, and you were playing, and he wasn't. You know, the two of you have some great photos of you with your glasses and him with his guitar, or vice versa.
Yeah,
good old time. All right, so while Julian cues up a first clip here, we're going to play something off your new record. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the new record and what clip you want to hear?
Well, how about Robbie? Let's see. Were we going to do Robbie Sweet Dreams on that one?
Robbie Sweet Dreams. Hey, I'm looking at the entire list here, so we can click play on any one you want.
Sure, that's
track 3. Robbie Sweet Dreams. Is that what you want?
Sure.
All right, here it goes. We're going to re-cue it up. This is Robbie Sweet Dreams.
Dream fades away, reaching out to hold you so near. Then the star broke, and you disappeared. Well, I need Godspeed, your love back to me.
Outstanding. I'm loving this already, Tommy. I can't wait to hear the whole thing. Listen, this is not exactly traditional jazz. This isn't a pianoless quartet. I mean, you've got synth stuff in there, a little Hammond B3, all kinds of things going on, and your trademark, amazingly dynamic voice. So you're deviating from the norm here. I didn't hear a lot of horns in there. I didn't hear, Tell me about your music, the compositional choice that you made with this album.
Well, on this album, this is a solo album,
right?
And I had a good time putting it together. It was kind of bits and pieces from here and there, things that was left over, little things where I would just sit and turn the music, the tape machine on, and was trying to let myself go into whatever came and recorded it.
Right.
And so I had all these little bits and pieces. Of course, that one was more orchestrated, and but I have a lot of little pieces on there that it's kind of fun to hear. And I just wanted to put the whole thing together in almost a 42-minute concert without any space in between, and make it interesting, hopefully.
Now, I know that track is also, or at least that composition is also on earlier album. What's different between that and this version?
Well, an earlier album, yeah, that was done in the 70s, actually. And I think Judy Still may have been on that one. That was when I was first starting to sing. And we might digress a little bit, go back to the jazz corps, because after that first recording, we did, Howard Rumsey loved us, and we used to play at the Lighthouse quite a bit and open up for Dizzy Gillespie and Cannonball Adderley and Yusef Lateef, and they would be sitting in our audience. And
wow.
And
is that tough to play when you've got people like that in your audience? I mean, doesn't that make it?
Well, we had to be on our toes. That's for sure.
There's Dizzy now.
Hey, but yeah. So we were playing there on Sunday afternoons and opening up for these wonderful groups, and it was really quite an inspiration. And it was thanks to Howard that we got to be able to do that, because
right.
At that time, a lot of people didn't understand what we were doing. In fact, they they didn't like Arnett. You know, Arnett finally moved to New York where he could be appreciated.
Right.
They were still in the West Coast vein, and they really didn't quite get it yet.
Right.
But,
Now you began, I don't mean to step on you, you began with jazzcore primarily trumpet playing, right? I mean, that's...
yeah, I was a cornet player. I never sang a note in my life or played keyboards or guitar. And in '66, Jack Tracy, who was the producer of Roland Kurt, heard our stuff and got us both together. And then we did that album for Pacific Jazz with Roland Kurt, which was quite an inspiration too.
Right. And then bring us from that point up to the Judy Sill era.
Well, shortly thereafter, around '68 or so, I was playing in a big band. I kind of hurt my side, and I was not able to play the horn anymore. After 25 years of playing my cornet, I no longer play it, and that was quite a
wow.
An awesome, thing to happen to someone, And right at that time, I met Judy Sill, who was this songwriter, singer who was living in her Cadillac and, penniless, but was a great inspiration. And before I know it, she had a contract with Asylum. She was the first person to be signed with Asylum. And she helped me with my guitar playing and vocals and encouraged me, as all my friends did at that time.
Right.
And never sang before, and before I know it, I'm a singer, songwriter, playing guitar and keyboards, and kind of folkish jazz, which I never cared for much, but then I ended up being what I didn't really,
right.
You end up being what you hate sometimes.
Yeah, and God rest her soul. I know we lost her a while ago, and an album came out after that. Tell me about that album.
Well, she did a couple of albums, and then just recently, 5 years ago, someone rediscovered her and got them to put out an album that I was on and her friends were on. That was just that Warner Brothers had, and they were able to get it and put it out. It was a double album with a 100-page story about her life.
Wow!
And it was a great tribute to her. And all of a sudden, all this next generation was really inspired by her, and she was more famous now than I think she was at that time.
Wow. Yeah, I'm listening to that album. I actually heard that album with you a little while ago, and I couldn't stop playing it. It literally consumed, the household for about a week when you gave it to me. It was a fantastic album. All right, so Julian's going to cue up another track off the new album. In the meantime, I got to ask you, the vocal style, every album from the beginning of when you began singing up until now, I've listened to each and the progression of your voice. Yeah. And, during the pre-interview, we talked about how I sort of described you as the vocal Benjamin Button. I mean, instead of a voice aging and losing its oomph, yours seems to get better. And it's a cheesy comparison, but like a fine wine, your voice is literally getting better as you approach your 48th year on this. You're 45 now or 44? You're 44, right?
What, years?
Yeah. It's a little age jump.
I'm 76 years old.
Your words, not mine. Anyways, your voice is getting better. I mean, tell me about working out your vocal cords. Is there an issue? Is there something that you do to preserve it? Because not everyone can belt it out at 76 with literally the same octave range that you've got. You go way down and you go way up.
Yeah, I don't know what happened about that. When I first started singing, I applied the same principles as I do when you play the trumpet,
right.
Play the horn, and right. It's all about using your diaphragm, right. Open throat, and so I think I can contribute it to never having any singing lessons, and never having any anybody tell me, well, you can't do this or can't do that, and I just right. Went on and if I couldn't do it, I just kept trying to hit those notes till they finally came out.
Yeah.
And I think just trying to be free of and loosen my voice, and had those 25 years behind me with the cornet
right.
helped a lot.
I'm sure that didn't hurt. Well, I mean, any horn player or any vocalist will tell you, that breathing is just about everything. I mean, if you're not breathing right, you're not singing right and you're not playing right. So you had a lot of experience with that. Thank God.
Yeah, so it just came out kind of different, and I don't know, I found this falsetto, and I just elaborated on it, and the more you do these things, the better it gets, and so, yeah, well, I'm glad it's still here with me.
Do you have anything to say about some of the copycats that get out there and try and do what you're doing and can't pull it off, or is it just is that just flattering to you?
Well, yeah, it's pretty flattering, you know. I just do what I do. I don't, really think about it that much. I'm glad, that some people really appreciate it.
Yeah, I would love to see anyone else in the music business with your kind of humility. It's refreshing. Tommy, let's play something else from the new album. What do you want to play before we go to break?
Let's play Papa.
Papa. All right,
Yeah,
let's see. Off the new album, Julian. So we're going to go to the other track. And Papa is track number 8. This is Tommy Peltier. So that's off of Love, Women, and Song. It's a song called Papa from Tommy Peltier. Listen, Tommy, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, I want to hear more off the new album, and tell me a little bit more about Lifetime and what's coming up for you. So hit Stipko Live with Tommy Peltier. In the meantime, check out TommyPeltier.com. I'm going to spell that for you. TOMMY, obviously, PELTIER.com. Stipko Live, we'll be right back.